Well, I'd like to be in bed right now, but I just keep reading the news, and it just this Hegseth fella. It's not ending. There's just so much more going on with this Hegseth fella. I'm losing my mind over Pete Hegseth. So I'm just gonna have to read a lot of this because there's just so much here. Pete Hegseth has said exactly how he will shake up the Pentagon. Trump's nominee for defense secretary has called for a war on what he calls the woke military, including potentially firing top brass. Fox and Friends co-host Pete Hegseth interviews Donald Trump during an event at the White House in 2017. That's right, Fox News told you that in the last video. Here's the guy. Now, he has been in the military, but he's an expert on how to behave at Fox News. He's not an expert in military affairs. So, here we go. President-elect Donald Trump's selection of Fox News host Pete Hegseth as his nominee for defense secretary will place atop the Pentagon a combat veteran and a political ally who has assailed the military as ineffective and woke. Mused about firing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and blasted the top brass as having failed to safeguard American strength. By woke, he means trans people, gay people, and apparently he doesn't like the Joint Chiefs of Staff's skin color, CQ Brown. Hegseth's nomination suggests a coming battle over social and personal issues within the armed forces, historically one of the nation's most diverse institutions. That's good, y'all. People who volunteer for U.S. military service and want to defend our nation is a good thing. I'll just remember that what I told you last video. They're volunteers. Nobody is forcing them to join the military. They're doing it because they want to defend the United States. If you want to fire those people for being woke because they want to defend the United States, I can't approve of that. Hegseth's nomination suggests a coming battle over social and personal issues in the armed forces, historically one of the nation's most. I read that. Throughout his campaign, Trump made a distinction between fighting generals and woke generals. You think woke generals are not fighting? Vowing to fire the latter. Asked in a podcast interview with the Sean Ryan Show published last week what he would do, Hegseth set a tone that looks ominous for senior Pentagon officials. First of all, you've got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Hegseth said, referring to General Charles Q. Brown, Jr. Any general, any admiral, whatever, who is involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs or woke shit has got to go, Hegseth said. Translation: Hegseth doesn't like CQ Brown's skin color. And if that's not it, he doesn't like CQ Brown because he advocates for all the people who are joining the military to be in the military. Probably trans and gay people. I don't think Hegseth is too thrilled about women being in the military either. Hegseth could not be reached for comment. What a surprise. His nomination represents a major victory for Donald Trump, who has and by the way, you can expect him to be appointed during the Congress being out of session. Don't forget that happened. The top 3 picks for the leader of the Senate agreed immediately that Donald Trump should be allowed to appoint out of session. I guarantee you, Hegseth will be appointed out of session. Just wait. His nomination represents a major victory for Donald Trump, who has lobbied for the inclusion of more unorthodox candidates, such as Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, against the wishes of establishment Republicans who have favored filling key administration roles for those they see as more traditional choices, such as former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. So you got a lot of Republicans that don't agree with Trump. The breakneck speed of Hegseth's nomination also underscores the value Trump places on TV personalities. Trump watches Fox News. Trump's favorite channel is Fox News. Maybe you could put Tucker Carlson in someplace. And don't forget Hannity. You got to get Bill O'Reilly in there somewhere. Remember all those crazy fuckers? Yeah, that's who Trump likes. Breakneck speed of Hegseth nomination also underscores the value Trump placed in TV personalities who have used their platform to promote his agenda. I'm kind of wondering if Trump's agenda is being dictated by Fox News. You know, it might be the other way around. Instead of Trump picking people from Fox News that are doing his agenda, maybe Fox News is directing Trump's agenda. I know it sounds ridiculous, y'all, but pay attention now. On Thursday, the president-elect called Hegseth and asked whether he was interested in becoming the next defense secretary, said a person familiar with the conversations who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss personal meetings. Hegseth immediately said yes, which then triggered Trump's team to begin the formal vetting process, this person said. What do you think the formal vetting process of Pete Hegseth is going to be like? Let's see. Is he from Fox News? Yep, we'll take him. On Monday, Hegseth was asked to fly to Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida for a final round of meetings with Trump, during which the president-elect offered and Hegseth accepted the job. I wonder who has the better handicap. Came together pretty quickly, the person said. In last week's podcast interview with Ryan, a Navy SEAL veteran, Hegseth said he was one of the 2 finalists to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs. Whew, there goes my health care. When Trump took office in 2017, but the president found him to be a little young then to do the job. Okay. I'm not so much worried about Hegseth's age as I am about him eliminating health care for trans veterans and gay veterans and queer veterans, lesbian veterans. Nevertheless, during Trump's first term, Hegseth proved valuable to the president by promoting pieces of legislation he cared about on his show, Fox and Friends weekend, including the VA Focus Mission Act and the Accountability Act. Trump is just watching too much Fox television. The show's weekend schedule and a 4-hour time slot fit Trump's viewing habits, and he appeared on the show multiple times. Yeah, I bet he did. In his statement announcing the nomination, Trump cited a book that Hegseth wrote, War on Warriors, Behind the Portrayal of Men Who Keep Us Free. And this treatment of what the president-elect said was a left-wing betrayal of our warriors. How we must return our military to meritocracy, lethality, accountability, and excellence. Do you think that a gay person holding a gun like say an M16 could shoot the enemies of the United States on the front line? Because I don't care what color you are, what sexual orientation you are, what gender identity you are. If you're holding an M16, well, I sure don't want to be on the business end of that thing. You think any of those attributes of humans make it less likely for them to be able to use an M16? Fuck it out of your mind. The betrayal is not from trans, gay, and black folks or women. Put a gun in all those people's hands if they're willing to defend the United States. They're going to do it. And they're going to be volunteers doing it. And you need to respect them. You're the one betraying them. Pete Hegseth. The Biden administration has maintained that critics distort the military's diversity initiatives, saying they account for far less focus and time than opponents allege. The Princeton and Harvard-educated Hegseth, who served as an Army infantryman in Iraq and Afghanistan as a member of the Minnesota National Guard, who also played a role in episodes that roiled the Pentagon and involved Trump's defiance of military norms during his first term in office. Hegseth was a key player, for instance, in convincing the then president to intervene in war crimes cases of 3 U.S. service members in 2019. That effort led to pardons for 2 Army officers, Matthew L. Goldstein and Clint Lawrence, in separate murder cases, and a redemption of sorts for Navy SEAL Edward Gallagher, who had seen his rank reduced after a military jury acquitted him of murder charges but found him guilty of posing for a photographer with a corpse. Hegseth lobbied the president directly from his perch at Fox News. I don't even know how to continue the sentence, y'all. Here's Trump watching TV. What about your military intelligence officers? Shouldn't they be the ones influencing your decisions instead of Fox TV hosts? Featuring the case frequently and casting them as malicious prosecution of war heroes. Well, if they did war crimes, how can they be war heroes? I mean, you can be a war hero and then do a crime. A war crime. I mean, just because you do something good doesn't mean you can't do something bad. But I don't know. I wasn't there. Trump called Hegseth numerous times about the issue. Officials familiar with the discussion said at the time. While some Trump administration officials celebrated the decision, others worried they would set a bad precedent and damage U.S. relations. abroad. Goldstein, who was accused of killing an unarmed Taliban official and burning his body to hide evidence in a murder case, celebrated the decision on Tuesday night. Well, I guess he would, wouldn't he? This is a phenomenal choice for Secretary of Defense, Goldstein said in a text message. I guess he would think that, wouldn't he? We're a military of lions led by a morally bankrupt sheep. Just what are they morally bankrupt about? I don't think killing an unarmed Taliban official is morally good. So you better watch your mouth who you're accusing. The scale of the problem requires someone of great intellect and character with whom the establishment can expect no quarter. Pete Hegseth, that guy, is that guy. Pete Hegseth is the Fox News host who's been tapped for this position. This is a guy who is only wants white men who are heterosexuals and cis to be in the military, who's saying that we're being led by morally bankrupt sheep. You tell me who's morally bankrupt if it's not Pete Hegseth. You watch your mouth, Mr. Goldstein. Past comments by Hegseth, who has called for senior military officials to be held accountable for their failures at home and abroad, also suggest he will attempt to bring a new kind of criteria to his leadership at the Pentagon. G.I. Joe also knows that if he loses his rifle, he'll be demoted immediately, he wrote earlier this year. But if a general loses a war or billions of dollars of military equipment, nothing happens. His emergence as Trump's pick raises the stakes for high-profile officers such as Brown, the former pilot who President Joe Biden selected as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Although it was Trump who tapped Brown to become Air Force Chief of Staff in 2020, positioning him to become the first African-American officer to serve in that role, he gained notoriety for a video in which he spoke in emotional terms that year about the impact of the killing of George Floyd at the hands of Minnesota police and about his own experiences with race in the military. You know, if Mr. Brown is a little bit emotional about having George Floyd die under the boot of a corrupt police officer, how can you blame me? I am saddened by the police brutality of that case. I'm sure that Brown is much closer to that than I am. In the podcast interview with Ryan, Hegseth said that firing Brown and other officials seen as being involved in diversity initiatives. You mean including people who want to serve would be a step towards countering what he described as socially correct garbage. Military. Socially correct? Do you mean people who volunteer to fight for the United States? Is that who you mean, Hegseth? Hegseth has criticized the Obama administration's 2015 decision to drop gender-biased restrictions and allow women to serve in direct combat jobs. A move that followed years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan that erased the traditional notions of what it means to serve on the front lines. Since then, women have assimilated into positions that historically were all male, including infantry and artillery units. Once again, anyone who wants to serve, you should let them serve. I have a deep respect for all those people who are willing to put their lives on the line. I don't understand, Pete Hegseth, how you can not have respect for those people who volunteered their lives to dedicate it to the United States. I hate to read this paragraph. Give me a female pilot all day long. I have no issues with that, Hegseth told Ryan in last week's interview. His sticking point, Hegseth, is the perception that the military has lowered standards for women in physically demanding jobs. I kind of doubt there's a lowered standard for any women who are standing on the front line with an M16. Allowing women into combat roles, he said, hasn't made us more effective. How do you know? How do you know that, Pete? You ask them how they feel about their service? I bet they're super passionate about it. Hasn't made us more lethal. I'm pretty sure we're fucking lethal. Has made fighting more complicated. What the hell is that supposed to be? Where is this complication? Everybody is up there on the front line shooting at the enemy. Where is the complication in that? Are you talking about sex? Are you talking about bathrooms? Are you talking about changing clothes? I'd like to remind you that if anybody tries to have sex with somebody against their wishes, that's a crime. I, for one, wouldn't want to try to approach a woman with an M16 and you know, I mean, come on. Do you have time for that on the front line? How could you? Where's the complication? You could only possibly be talking about sex. Probably your same problem you got with gay folks on the front lines. You think they're all going to be having sex with each other instead of sheep. Well, that's the only thing I could come up with is why you think it's complicated. I think you're overcomplicating the complication. I think you're just racist and misogynist. Israel, Britain, and other U.S. allies also allow women to serve in combat. Well, good for them. We can no longer expect to win the wars our nation sends us to fight if the sniper fire is coming from inside our ranks, straight from the front of our formation. Who do you think those are going to be? Which ones are you blaming for that? Because I don't have any concept of what's going on in your mind. Hegseth's selection did not please every Trump ally. Whoa, how about that? How much further we got to go? We're almost out. One person who has advised Trump for years contrasted Hegseth with more experienced public servants like Representative Michael Waltz, Republican Florida, who Trump has nominated in his national security advisor, and Senator Marco Rubio, Republican Florida, who is the likely pick to lead the State Department. The question is whether Senate Republicans, who will control the chamber starting next year, would back his nomination. How is Tom Cotton going to defend this pick? Or Joni Ernst? The person said, referring to two Senate Republicans with national security credentials. Everyone else is a bullseye, and this one isn't even on the target. That's because he's a Fox News host. He's not a military expert. He's the guy Trump's been watching on TV. You know, the network that said we're not a news organization in order to avoid being sued for more money. We're just entertainment. Trump's entertainment is Fox News. He's putting his entertainment in charge of the military. Think about it for a while. Trump Democrats who will be involved in scrutinizing Trump's nomination raised immediate skepticism about his pick of Hegseth. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat Massachusetts, a member of the Senate Armed Service Committee, said in a political media post that he is not qualified for the job. I agree, Ms. Warren. He should stay on TV entertainment. I lead the Senate Military Personnel Panel. All three of my brothers served in uniform. I respect every one of our service members, she wrote. I bet you that includes gay, trans, black, and women people. Donald Trump's pick will make us less safe and must be rejected. Pete Hegseth, recuse yourself now. Senator Richard Blumenthal, another member of Democrat Connecticut, another member of the Armed Services Committee, said in a phone call that this very surprising nominee deserves extremely close scrutiny. He's a racist, a transphobe, misogynist, Pete Hegseth, and Donald Trump. I'm reaching no immediate conclusions, Blumenthal said, but I will certainly be questioning very critically what his views are on various highly significant policy issues and what direction he would lead the Pentagon. I'll tell you what he's going to lead the Pentagon into. Firing a lot of people who passionately offered their time to defend the United States, despite being afraid that somebody would be worried that they're trans or gay or lesbian or queer. They offered their time voluntarily to defend the United States. In my mind, those people are even more highly qualified to serve in the United States military than those people that are like you, Pete Hegseth. But those people are still volunteers to defend the United States. And you should respect all of them while they're serving in the United States. Mr. Hegseth and Mr. Trump Commander-in-Chief should be respectful of all of his volunteer soldiers who are here to defend the United States. And if you're not, Mr. Trump, you should recuse yourself from the Commander-in-Chief because you are not qualified to command the volunteers who defend the United States. Thank you, sir.